Well, hello, viewers, and welcome to another episode of the New Times Roundtable. My name is Tessie Carvin. I will be your host for today, and this has been a series of discussions on the DR Congo crisis. In case you've missed any of the past conversations, please visit our YouTube page and catch up with all those conversations that we've had. And really, we've had the privilege of hosting quite a number of guests who are experts in their own right, and today is no different. I have the privilege of hosting Destexhe.
Yes.
You're very welcome, sir. Now, he is a medical doctor by profession, and in 1994 he was the Secretary General of Doctors Without Borders, and he was also a senator in Belgium from 1995 to 2019. Alain, you've actually written 2 books on Rwanda, and you have a lot of interest in Rwanda and in this region. First of all, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much for your invitation, Tessie.
It's a pleasure to host you. And I just want to understand, we've had quite a lot happening. Recently, we've seen Rwanda and Belgium, cutting ties. It's gotten to that. But before we even get there, I want to understand your interest in Rwanda, your interest in this region.
Yes, I was in Goma and in Kivu last week, but my interest for the region started in 1994, just 3 weeks before the genocide started. I came here as Secretary General of Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, to visit some Burundian refugees who were at the time in Rwanda. And so, of course, nobody told me that a genocide was under preparation at that time. But when the genocide started on several of April, I was very much aware of what's going on. And so I think I was among the first one to say, no, this is not only civil war, this is not only crime, this is a genocide against the Tutsis carried out by the Hutu power at the time, because you will remember that the international community and the UN at the time were presenting the event as, civil war, tribal warfare, and things like that. And so after the genocide, I was also in Goma, in the refugee camp, and I was among those also saying, look, those people are not normal refugees. Most of them are murderers, are genocidaires, are killers. And the international community and the UN were putting them back as an army, as the enemy of Rwanda, thanks to humanitarian aid and international relief supplies. And so I denounced that, and I said, look, this is not acceptable that the UN and NGOs help a murderer regime, the former Hutu power regime. And so my interest and involvement in the crisis in Rwanda dates from 1994.
To now.
To now, yeah.
And we will get back to especially the books that you have written on Rwanda. But let's get to the current. So now we see Belgium and Rwanda have cut ties.
Yeah.
In your opinion, why is Belgium acting the way it is towards Rwanda?
Even for me, it's very difficult to explain. Because the truth is that most of the people in Belgium, they are not enemies of Rwanda. They don't have any negative sentiments towards Rwanda. And to be frank, many of them are not really interested by what's going on in Rwanda. So I think it's come for a very small political elite in Belgium who has decided to be hostile to Rwanda. And I cannot see many reasons, but the ones I can see is that, Belgium is a small country with not much influence in the international sphere or in the European Union. And I think some leaders, some politicals in Belgium have decided that thanks to the crisis in Kivu, they can have an influence at the level of the UN and the European Union. and they use the fact that people are going to listen them on Kivu, Rwanda, or on Congo to increase this influence. If we take the European Union, many countries, they never heard about Rwanda. You know, if you take Estonia or Slovakia or Romania, they don't have an embassy here. They don't have the national, except mercenaries. I think we'll come back to the mercenaries later. But they don't have any national here. They don't have political or economical interest. So they tend, in those international gatherings, when they sit together, the 27 countries of the European Union, they tend to listen to what the Belgium would say, because Belgium has this kind of historical ties and past with the region. And I think that's the only rational explanation I can see. But I would like to say that there is certainly no hostility from the Belgian population and the Belgian people towards Rwanda and Rwandan. I think it comes from this small political so-called elite and nobody else.
Yeah. So, Anna, given the history of the DR Congo and Belgium, I'm just going to be direct and ask, do you think Belgium is responsible for the crisis that is currently happening in the DR Congo?
No, I don't think so. I don't think the crisis has its own dynamic. The dynamic for me is mainly the threat to the life of minorities, including Tutsi minorities in the Congo. This is the major roots of the crisis. But I don't think Belgium is responsible for the crisis in the Kivu. I think Belgium is responsible for the increasing tension between Rwanda and Belgium. And personally, I think Belgium should have to remain absolutely neutral in this crisis. I think the colonial past of Belgium doesn't give this country any authority to take a stand and to take side in this crisis. I think Belgium should have remained neutral.
I was actually going to bring in that colonial past. How has it contributed to what we are seeing today?
Well, much, much, and I think the small political so-called elite in Belgium, who is responsible for the current problem between our two countries right now, totally ignore. I'm sure Minister Maxime Prévost, the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Belgium, doesn't know anything about the colonial past in the region. So he doesn't know, for example, that the Tutsis in the Kivu were there for a very, very long time, so some of them at least. And then that others came thanks to Belgian colonization in the 30s. And then the third wave came in 1959, when Belgium decided to shift side and to support the so-called social Hutu revolution, which led to many Tutsis in Rwanda not only being killed, but also fleeing to the Democratic Republic in Congo. And I think that they don't know that all these people, whenever they arrive in Congo, are Congolese citizens. They are not Rwanda's citizens. At the independence of Congo, it was decided that everybody being in Congo at that time is a Congolese. And I think they don't understand at all this aspect of history, and they don't understand that by taking a strong stand against Rwanda now, they are awakening again this past, which was not forgotten, but it was not something which was front page news. Now the Belgian government is really awakening again this past, and it's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah. So you took a trip to the DR Congo.
Yes, I was for at least 1 week in the Kivu.
What did you find there, and why did you go there in the first place?
Well, first of all, I find that Goma and around Goma was much more quieter than what I expected. You know, in Europe you have the feeling that there is turmoil, there is a war everywhere. But I find that first of all, as always, Rwanda as a country is very quiet. Some people in Europe they don't know that. And secondly, even Goma was a normal city. The only difference is that first of all, there is no more corruption by the Congolese soldiers or the Congolese policemen. So the population is not anymore harassed as they were by the Congolese authorities. You don't see much presence of policemen or FM23 in the town, and the life seems pretty normal, except that the banks are closed, and the banks are closed by a decision of Kinshasa. I travel around Goma without an escort. Everything was quiet and normal. I didn't feel at all threatened, and I went quite far. Of course, it's not possible to go that far because the roads are so bad, you know, and you have also the feeling that the different president of the DRC, from Mobutu to Tshisekedi, has done nothing for the people. The Congolese people are extremely poor. They live in appalling condition. There is a huge difference when you travel in the countryside in the Congo and in Rwanda. You really see a huge difference in the level and the quality of life between the two populations. And this was my, let's say, my first and overall impression of my trip. But I had also, I met also General Makenga. I met Corneille Nangaa, Bertrand Bizimwana. I met all the leadership of M23. I spoke also with many people in the street, you know, average people met to try to understand the situation. And I went to Ntoro, which is a village in the Masisi, which was burned by Wazalendo and also by a militia, which I forget the name, Nyatura, I think.
Yes.
Nyatura. And the Burundian soldiers were there, so that was a very strong experience for me to visit Nturu.
It's interesting because Bintu has painted the picture to the UN that the closure of the airport has created a humanitarian situation in Goma. Is that it, or why is she painting this picture?
Yes, you know, I'm doing a number of posts on my X, on my Twitter on this, and I visited Goma Airport. So Goma Airport cannot be used right now for several reasons. First of all, the control tower is totally destroyed. The equipments, the electronic equipment, has been either destroyed or stolen. The runway is full of, first of all, holes due to the shelling, but also full of trucks and different kind of vehicles, maybe 30 or 40 of them, which might be mined. So, you know, it could be full of booby traps. And also on the runway, there are defense position sandbags from the FIRDC, from the Congolese forces, which also might be mined. So before using the airport, it should be clear. General Makenga told me that he has absolutely nothing against reopening the airport, but first of all, it should be made operational.
I hear you. Let's go back to your years as a senator in Belgium, and you made a report about Belgium's hand in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. One, how was this report received? And two, did Belgium do anything about the report?
Well, you know, in 1994, I wrote a first book which was translated in English. This one is called Rwanda and Genocide in the 20th Century. And the thesis of the book was that the genocide of the Tutsis in 1994 was only the first unquestionable genocide in the 20th century. Of course, this could be challenged, but that was my thesis. And they were only the Armenian genocide in 1915, the genocide of the Jews during the Second World War by the Nazi, and the genocide of the Tutsi by the Hutu power at the time. And well, at the time in 1994, that was not so popular, you know, so I did try to contribute to increase the awareness about the unicity and the specificity of what happened here. Then after I became a senator, in part because I started to disagree with the NGO approach and with which which consists of helping people without asking you question about who you help really. Mm-hmm. And the whole humanitarian effort in Goma and other places in 1994, 1995, until 1996, when the Rwandan army decided to attack Goma and to say to the refugee that they have to go back into Rwanda. But during those 2 years, from 1994, from July 1994 to I think November or December 1996, the international community was, the NGOs were feeding those murderers. You know, I remember very well, at the end of 1994, the relief supplies, the food was given to the burgomasters. You know, burgomasters, yes. At the time you used that word, I think, I'm not sure you use it anymore, but the head of the different city and village, we were giving them the food and they were giving the food to their own population. So of course the population had the impression that their leaders, the organizers of the genocide, the perpetrators, were the ones still in charge, you know. So I don't know if my explanation is clear, but the international community was really strengthening the structure who did carry out the genocide. And so that's why at the time I advocated for Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, to leave the refugee camp. What we did finally, but you know, we just left, but we were immediately replaced by other organizations, because at that time humanitarian aid in the humanitarian relief in the camps had become just a big business, you know, with full of money given by the international community for these refugee people who were also, most of them at least, murderers. So not to be too long, so after when I became a senator, I was elected, and so I realized that Belgium knew much more than what was said by the government at the time, and that Belgium had many sides, like France and the United States, not only Belgium, many sides that a genocide was under preparation and did nothing to prevent it and to stop it. So I lobby for having a committee of inquiry in the Belgium Senate. It was very complicated. It took 1.5 years because the government were hostile and against this idea of an inquiry. And finally we got the inquiry, which took part in the whole 1997.
It's interesting you paint that picture in 1994, and in my mind I'm asking myself, is it the same thing happening now with NGOs up in arms saying that camps in Goma have been closed, refugees have been asked to go home? Is it a business, or they actually have interests?
Well, it's difficult to say because I'm not in the NGO business for a long time. But seen from outside, you know, they have a direct interest to have those camps being maintained in place, and because the camp is really the business. And you know, I didn't make a full investigation of that, but what I've seen is that some of the refugees, they receive their income directly on their telephone, you know. So it's not anymore like before when you are giving them the food. No, many of them were receiving the money on their phone. So you don't know if these people, they don't have a field which is carried out by somebody else, if they don't have double activities and things like that. So I think M23 was right to ask the people to go back to their home place, which, you know, they belong to their own place. I saw many of them on the road. Every time I saw a group of returnees, I tried to speak with them, and what I find out is that they were happy to go back to their place. They said it. They were happy to be back, to have security at least, because one of the main reasons of the displacement was the insecurity because of the war. But now M23 is in control of those areas. But what they also say, the ones I spoke with are happy to go back to their home place. But of course they fear about the crops and the future harvest. So I think now the role of the international community should be to give seeds and agricultural tools to these people, to help them during this transitional period before the next harvest. So let's see if the UN and all these NGO, which were you know, in the camps, they are going to shift their effort and help the people when they need to be helped, which is their home place and not anymore in those refugee camps which exist since so long, you know, and as I said, which were becoming a real business for many people.
I hear you. Let's go back to the genocide and the issue of the genocide deniers and even some of their offsprings finding their way into leadership in Belgium. What did you say about that?
Well, you know, it's difficult to say because the problem, you know, we have in Europe, we have free speech, and it's very difficult to fight against genocide deniers because they use the pretext of free speech to carry out the negationism and the revisionism. And to be frank, it's not easy to fight against that because we don't have the instrument, the juridical tools to fight against them. Now, it should be acknowledged that Belgium did, I don't remember how many, but I think at least 8 trials in Brussels against the génocidaires. And also this was a big political fight. At the beginning, the current government at the time didn't want to do that, but it has been done, and I think this is a positive point for Belgium that those trials against the génocidaires did take place in Brussels.
Mm-hmm. Let's bring in the issue of mercenaries. Now, I happened to be at the border when the mercenaries were coming in, and they were in their hundreds. And Rwanda had been talking about these mercenaries being in the DRC for a very long time, and nobody really believed them. And there is a convention against the use of mercenaries. But interestingly, the West is quiet about this.
Yes, that's quite unbelievable. And you know, it's not only a juridical problem. I think it's more an ethical and a moralistic problem. How is that possible that in 2025 you have Romanian,
yes,
so that means member of the European Union, individuals coming to fight in Africa against people who are fighting for their life, And you know, I heard that these people were not there for 2 or 3 weeks. Some of them said in interview that they were there for years.
2 years,
almost
actually.
2 years.
Yes.
Even me, I didn't know about that. So I think it's an absolute shame. And you know, I think the European Union, instead of criticizing Rwanda, should also looking in his own mess and his own situation, and this is absolutely not acceptable. And yes, it has not been publicized enough in the countries of the European Union that these mercenaries were there and were fighting with the UN, with the Congolese force, against M23, M23. Yeah. You know, also something absolutely crazy in Europe is that there is a permanent, and also the Belgian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Maxime Prévost, is doing that all the time. There is a comparison between the conflict in the DRC and the conflict in Ukraine. Well, and so you have really the feeling that the European Union is taking decision here in the region in the light of what's happening in Ukraine. But you know, that has absolutely nothing to do. And if you want to be this comparison, which again is absolutely irrelevant, who would be Ukraine and who would be Russia? Congo is 90 times bigger than Rwanda and 10 times more populated. Yeah. So who would be Russia and who would be Ukraine? So this comparison is absolutely crazy.
That's interesting. And talking about the European Union, they are issuing sanctions, left, right, and center.
Yeah.
How are these sanctions affecting the peace talks that the African countries themselves are trying to have?
But first of all, the sanction has never worked in history. You know, a sanction doesn't work. I think Russia is under not sure if it's 15 or 16 or 18 train of sanctions, and Russia is still there and still factoring. So sanction doesn't work in general. And secondly, the timing of the sanction was extremely poor. I mean, you know, the president of Angola took the initiative to ask Congo and the DRC government and the M23 to meet in Rwanda yesterday, in fact. And the sanctions were taken the day before the meeting should have taken place. So it's really a way to torpedoes, to destroy the meeting. I think not only the purpose of the sanction was bad, but the timing was absolutely a disaster. And also, again, the Belgian Minister Prévost, he said that, oh, President Kagame is against dialogue. But he was in Doha, meeting President Tshisekedi yesterday. So yes, there is a dialogue. So all this is really wrong. I don't know why he's continuing to putting those lies.
But why do they insist on meddling, if I may use that word?
Yes, you're right. You're right. Why? I don't know why. It's irrelevant. I think they should not meddling, and they should let first of all the ones directly involved, and maybe the region and the African Union in general trying to help and to solve the problem, which we should acknowledge that it's a difficult problem. But no, yeah, they should not interfere, and it's a big mistake. What can I say?
Yeah.
If you mind, you know, also in Europe, the perception is that it is a question of territorial integrity and national sovereignty, but that's not. That's a question of survival. That's what I understood in Kivu last week and in Goma. I mean, the minorities, including the Tutsis people in Congo, they are threatened in their life. You know, it's their life who is at stake. It's not the territorial integrity of Congo. If M23 would be defeated tomorrow, these people would be either killed or refugees in another country. Yeah. It's very important to understand, and I hope the European Union will understand that it's a question of survival for the Tutsi people in the Congo. And if M23 is defeated, they would be killed or refugee. How can you propose this as a fate, as a destiny for a people? So the question of sovereignty and territorial integrity is secondary. We are talking about life and death, and those people they don't understand they don't understand this aspect. And I would like to say add also, what did the different Congolese government since 1994 did for their own people in Kivu? Nothing. When you look, the situation in Kivu today is an absolute disaster. There is nothing. There is no roads, no infrastructure. The only infrastructure which are there were built by NGO and the international community. They are not there thanks to the Kinshasa or to the Tshisekedi government. Kivu was never given the possibility to develop itself, and there is when you cross the border in Rubavu to Goma, you are changing world. You know, I would like a Belgian minister and European Union civil service to come here in Kigali to visit Rwanda and then to cross the border and to go to Kivu and to see the difference between the two countries and the two regions. It's really a big gap. It's another world. I was really moved by the situation of the Congolese population. They're so poor, and it's really sad to see them in this situation. Some of them has no shoes in the countryside. You know, their clothes. You can see really how bad are the clothing of these people. What did the government for them? Nothing. When you go out of Goma in the north, you have a tarmac road for about 5 or 6 or 7 kilometers. Mm-hmm. It stops in a place where it's a new city model from Madame Kabila. And there is just an announcement of a city, a model city so-called, and there is nothing, you know. But they put a road. Who built that road? With what money? Just to go to this ghost village, which just doesn't exist. Yeah. And in Masisi, when I was going to Ntoro, the same thing. You go to Ntoro, and I find there is an electric line here, but not a single village on the way has electricity. So I asked the driver and the people, what is that line? Oh, there is a farm of Mr. Kabila in the countryside. But you know, it doesn't help any village on the way. So this is the reality of Congo. With what money was that electric line or that road in Goma built? Huh? Yeah. There is also the cathedral in Goma. Apparently it was built by Madame Kabila. It's not finished, you know. It's still under work, so it's not used. It has cost a fortune. I don't know how many millions dollar to build that cathedral. Where does the money come from?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. So in your opinion, looking at how things are playing out now, where do you see this crisis going?
Well, if I knew, I would tell you.
When you look into your crystal ball, what do you
sorry,
see?
I'm not Jesus Christ. I cannot answer this question. I just hope some kind of dialogue could be restarted. I cannot answer, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I hear you. So as we bring this to a close, I know you have done 2 books on Rwanda, one in 1994 and another last year commemorating 30 years of the genocide against the Tutsi. Please tell me about these 2 books and their impact.
Yeah, so as I said, the first one was trying to make people understood that what happened in Rwanda was not a civil war, was not just no basic crimes, that it was a genocide, a deliberate attempt to exterminate a group of people defined in the case of as Tutsis. And the second book, which is much more recent, in French is called Rwanda, le carnage, the carnage, 30 years later. So it was an inquiry that I made 30 years ago. So I went back to see both survivors and perpetrators of the genocide. And I went back to Nyamata and to Bisesero in particular, where I don't know why I'd never been before. So I talked with people there, I gave testimony, and I tried to broadly, let's see what kind of lessons for foreigners you can bring from this woeful experience. Yes, it was very moving to do that. And if I may conclude on also something, you know, I think the policy of Rwanda to get rid of this notion of ethnicity it's the right one, and I think it's the way forward, and I think it's a very good policy. But it is not the same in the Congo. In Congo, they still speak about ethnic group and ethnic tribes. They use the word tribes. And the stake in the Congo is the survival of the Tutsi people there and the development of the Kivu. And I think the fact that now it's not only the Tutsi, but there is an alliance of many different groups under the Alliance Fleuve Congo, which try to fight for their survival and for the development of the Kivu. And the question is not territorial integrity of Congolese sovereignty, because Kinshasa has done absolutely nothing in the last decade for the Kivu. No, the question is those people, they have a right to survive.
Ale Destexhe, it's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for expressing your opinion on this. And I'm really moved by what you said. It's not about the territorial integrity. It's about the survival of these people. They're
Absolutely.
fighting for their lives.
They're fighting for their life, yes.
And thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching this episode. And remember, if you have missed any other of our episodes, you can find them on the New Times YouTube channel. This has been the New Times Roundtable. I am Tessie Cavan.